right, so you hear me talk an awful lot about intensity. Intensity is probably the most, or at least one of the most important variables for the effectiveness of your workouts. So intensity, I want to break that down a little bit for you and then find out, I'm going to teach you how you can find the appropriate intensity. Okay, so let's say you go out for a long jog that lasts 2 hours. Maybe you can jog for 2 hours. That, my friend, is a low intensity exercise. Yeah, sure, it's 2 hours long. That doesn't make it intense. That is a very low intensity exercise because you could do it for 2 hours. Versus, on the other side of the spectrum, let's say you did an all-out maximum sprint for 10 seconds as fast as you possibly could. And at the end of 10 seconds, you were wiped. That is an intense exercise. Or you challenge yourself with a very intense like jumping exercise and you can only do about 5 or 10 reps of it because that's all your muscles have. That's high intensity. Now everyone's got a different level they're at, but the intensity is relative to you and what you're capable of doing. So you'll constantly improve your intensity over time because you'll constantly improve the level that you're at, the amount of work that your muscles are capable of putting out. So my point here is, generally speaking, the weight that you use is going to be a major reflection of your intensity that you're using. But combine that with the number of reps that you use or that you perform and how far you push your muscles. This is a good summary of your intensity, okay? So what I mean by that is this. Do you push it all the way until your muscles absolutely just can't do it anymore? That's what we call muscle failure. When you're performing the exercise, let's just use an overhead press as an example. You're holding the weights, you're pressing overhead, first couple of reps are going smoothly, you're using that full range of motion, you're using good form, good technique, and then all of a sudden you get to that point where the muscles just can't do it anymore and you're pushing and you're trying and you get it, but then you go for another one and you just can't do it. Or maybe you push, you're trying, and then you lean back and you cheat and then you pull it off. Well, that would be muscle failure because you had to cheat, you had to sacrifice your form to reach muscle or to increase that intensity. So that's when your muscles just failed. They couldn't do it anymore when previously those first few reps they could, but now muscles are done. No more to offer, all right? So that's reaching muscle failure. So we wanna gauge that level with your workouts. We're gonna notice in your workouts, generally speaking, weeks 1 and weeks 2 of usually your 4-week programs or your 4-week phases, weeks 1 and weeks 2, I want you to try to aim for usually roughly 1 to 2 reps until you reach before you reach muscle failure. So you gotta have a good idea in your mind. Did I end up getting to muscle failure? All right, that weight was probably too heavy, so back it down, all right? Or if you ask yourself, do I think I could have gone 3 or 4 or 5 more reps? If that's the case, you need to bump up that weight and challenge yourself a little bit more so these workouts are effective and they challenge your muscles as much as they should. Now, with that said, you don't wanna push it overboard in weeks 1 and weeks 2. Instead, we reserve that for weeks 3 and weeks 4. We've now conditioned your muscles and your tendons and built in the movement patterns neurologically to your muscles with weeks 1 and weeks 2, so that in weeks 3 and weeks 4, you can crush these workouts with high intensity and not get injured, right? So reaching failure is one way we're going to do that. You'll see that reflected in your workouts with stars or 3 asterisks. Also, overloading is another way we do that, which I'll dive into a little bit more in another video. Maybe we haven't gotten to that yet, but that's coming down the road. An example is drop sets. If you know what drop sets are, great. If you don't worry, we're going to get to that later. But we do these 2 things because those are absolutely critical for getting you the hormonal response that we want to have your body give you the results that you want. So these 2 things are critical, but they have to be used sparingly. So that's how we break it down in my program. Weeks 3 and weeks 4, we do more of this. Weeks 1 and weeks 2, we generally speaking do 1 to 2 reps before failure or close to that. Okay, now go execute.